Welcome to Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman. A new study's found by the end of the century, swaths of the Middle East may become so hot and humid they're intolerable to humans. Due to human-driven climate change from the burning of fossil fuels, much of it coming from oil-rich countries in the Middle East, cities across the Persian Gulf could reach a point where people cannot safely be outside for more than a few hours. The study comes as Catholic leaders from 5 continents have issued an appeal to negotiators at the upcoming Paris Climate Summit to adopt a transformative agreement to address climate change. The death toll from an earthquake centered in northern Afghanistan has topped 300, with the majority of the deaths in Pakistan. At least 2,000 people have been injured. The tremors from the 7.5 magnitude quake were felt as far away as India. The death toll is expected to climb, with the devastation in remote villages still unknown. After years of discord, the White House and Republican congressional leaders have struck a tentative budget deal to avert a looming default on the government's debts. The deal reportedly raises spending by a relatively slim $80 billion over 2 years, not including an additional $32 billion in war funding. It includes cuts to Social Security, disability benefits, and Medicare payments to providers. New revenue would come from sales of U.S. strategic oil reserves and the use of public airwaves for telecommunications firms. The debt limit would be suspended until March 2017 after Obama leaves office. The budget still needs approval by the House and Senate. A vote is expected on Wednesday. A U.S. Navy destroyer has entered disputed waters in the South China Sea in a direct challenge to China's claim over artificial islands in the region. China says the U.S. maneuvers near the Spratly Islands are illegal, but the United States says it's defending freedom from navigation in international waters. Indonesian President Joko Widodo has announced the world's 4th largest country will join the TPP. That's the Trans-Pacific Partnership trade deal. Jokowi made the announcement during his visit to the White House on Monday.
Indonesia is an open economy, and with the 250 million population, we are the largest economy in Southeast Asia. And Indonesia intends to join the TPP.
The Indonesian President Widodo, also known as Jokowi, his visit comes amidst raging forest fires in Indonesia, the world's largest producer of palm oil. Fires are often set on purpose to clear land for palm oil, but amidst dry conditions and the strongest El Niño on record, thousands of fires have burned into national parks and other sensitive areas. Environmentalists warn the fires are threatening a third of the world's remaining wild orangutans. The fires have created a dense haze across Malaysia and Singapore and are believed to be responsible for up to 500,000 respiratory infections. We'll have more in Indonesia after headlines. More than 30 academics from dozens of British universities have vowed to join the academic boycott of Israel in a full-page ad in today's Guardian. The scholars say they're, quote, deeply disturbed by Israel's illegal occupation of Palestinian land and intolerable human rights violations. The scholars vow not to visit or take part in events organized or funded by Israeli institutions, but say they will still work with individual Israeli scholars. The move comes as violence continues in Israel and the occupied territories. Israeli forces have killed about 60 Palestinians, many of whom have been accused of attacking Israelis. About 10 Israelis have been killed. Meanwhile, Palestinian women in occupied East Jerusalem have issued a call to the international community for protection, saying, quote, "We feel displaced even at home as the Israeli soldiers, armed settlers, border patrol and police invade our homes, attack our families, strip search our bodies, and terrorize us all." In Colombia, the government has vowed retaliation against the National Liberation Army rebel group, or ELN, after rebels killed 12 state security personnel who were transporting regional election ballots. The attack came after President Juan Manuel Santos declared the elections the most peaceful and least violent in decades. They were the first regional elections since Santos's government began negotiations with another rebel group, the FARC, 3 years ago. The University of Mississippi has removed the state flag with its Confederate emblem from the school's grounds. The move comes after the student government voted to remove the flag, which is the only state flag in the country that continues to feature Confederate symbol. It's the latest Confederate symbol targeted for removal since a white supremacist who embraced the Confederate flag killed 9 African-American worshipers in Charleston, South Carolina in June. On Monday, University of Mississippi interim Chancellor Morris Stock said in a statement, quote, "Because the flag remains Mississippi's official banner, this was a hard decision." We'll have more with University of Mississippi student Dominique Scott later in the broadcast. In Columbia, South Carolina, a series of videos posted to social media showing a police officer employed as a school resource officer slamming an African-American student to the ground and dragging her. The video has gone viral. Officer Ben Fields has been suspended from Richland County School District amidst an outcry over the incident at Spring Valley High School. The video shows the girl sitting at her desk as Officer Fields grabs her around the neck and flips both her and her desk to the ground before dragging her. FBI Director James Comey has acknowledged he does not have evidence to support his claim. Added scrutiny and criticism of police officers have fueled an increase in crime. Speaking to police officials at a conference in Chicago Monday, Comey said the so-called Ferguson effect is just common sense.
And so the question that's been asked of me is, are these kinds of things changing police behavior all over the country? And is that what explains the map and the calendar? The honest answer is, I don't know. And I don't know that that explains it entirely. But I do have a strong sense that some part of the explanation is a chill wind that has blown through law enforcement over the last year.
The White House, meanwhile, disputed the FBI director's claims about the supposed connection between increased crime and increased scrutiny of police, saying, quote, "The evidence we have seen so far does not support the contention that law enforcement officials are shirking their responsibilities." An arm of the World Health Organization has issued an analysis linking the consumption of processed meat to colon cancer. Researcher Dr. Dana Loomis elaborated on the findings.
The IARC working group concluded that processed meat, that is, the consumption of processed meat, is carcinogenic to humans, and that the consumption of red meat is probably carcinogenic to humans. These findings reinforce existing dietary guidelines from a number of health authorities, including the World Health Organization. That is, that people who eat meat should consider reducing their consumption to reduce their risk of several diseases, including cancer.
Among the food products pointed out are bacon, sausage, and hot dogs. In news from the Vermont capital, Montpelier, 3 people were arrested Monday at the end of a 3-day protest against a natural gas pipeline. Hundreds of Vermonters descended on the state capitol over the weekend, and a smaller number blockaded the Department of Public Service building for 2 days. Rising Tide Vermont has called on the department to revoke approval of a pipeline that'll carry gas extracted through hydraulic fracturing or fracking. Vermont banned fracking 3 years ago amidst health and environmental concerns. A new investigation has revealed the Pentagon used a humanitarian NGO as a front for spying on North Korea. The Intercept reports the Pentagon paid Humanitarian International Services Group millions of dollars to infiltrate North Korea and spy on its nuclear program. But none of the Christian missionaries, aid workers, or smugglers who were hired to move equipment as part of the effort were aware they were part of the secret Pentagon operation. And the conference South by Southwest Interactive has canceled 2 panels about sexual harassment in the gaming industry following threats of violence. It's the latest chapter in the rampant online harassment of women who critique sexism in video games. South by Southwest said it canceled the panels after, quote, numerous threats of on-site violence related to this programming. And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.